Okay, today I'll be talking about how to make things appear when you cross a line. So basically, you could be sitting there for several minutes and nothing happens. Then when you cross a line, something happens. And then you can turn it off when you cross another line, because you want to turn it off because basically you're making a scrolling game from left to right, and you don't want sounds to happen until you get to a certain point in the game, and then a sound will happen. Like a gunfire will go off at a certain point. You don't want the gunfire to go off when you're at the beginning of the game before you even get to the bad guy, the enemy. Or in this case, I'm doing a block smash where a block's coming down, it's going to hit the ground, it's going to go back up, and it's going to keep doing that until you cross a line where it's going to change it back to a placeholder. And then if you cross another line, it's going to activate the placeholder to the moving object, and it's going to move back and forth, hit the ground, go back up, hit the ground, go back up. So basically, this first green line here is going to activate this placeholder. So I have a block here which is a placeholder, so it's not going to do anything. And so when he crosses this green line, it's going to make this block active, and it's going to go down and hit the ground, it's going to go back up, and it's going to hit this yellow line, and it's going to bounce off that and hit the ground again, and keep repeating until you come across this red line here. Once you hit this red line, it's going to change the moving block that keeps hitting the ground and going back up and bouncing back and forth, and it's going to switch that to the placeholder again. And it's not going to do nothing until you come across with this green line again, and it's going to make the placeholder active, and it's going to bounce back and forth. And it creates a sound effect once it hits the ground. But like I said, when you make a game, you don't want things to be active until a certain point in the game, because you don't want to hear a background sound go off. Like, this is going to make a crashing noise once it hits the ground. But like I said, you don't want to hear that at the beginning of the game. You want to hear it when you get to that object in the middle of the game. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me show you how it's going to run first. And I turned off the background sound so you can hear only the crashing noise of the block. Alright, so I'm going to move, and right now it's not doing anything. The block's not coming down or nothing. There it comes. Makes a noise, and it's going to keep bouncing back and forth. And I can also get hurt on this. Lose part of my life up there. See, if I go across this line again, what happens? Nothing. It just alright, and then I'm going to come across this line. And it's going to cut it off. See, it stopped. See, it stopped the block from coming down until I cross this line. It makes the block active again. Now these lines, I have them visible, but you want to make sure they're not visible when you're playing the game. Of course, I'm just showing you this for demonstration purposes. He's going to lose his life here, and I'll show you. Okay, so basically the screen line here is this show block. So basically there's nothing in here. There's nothing in here right now, but I have it visible. But I want to make sure you, and I have this depth at -30. The depth's not really that important, but I do have it at -30, but that way I can move this object while I'm on the screen right here. Because if you have this at depth at 0, then it's hard to move this object. You start moving other objects in the game, so that's why I have it depth at -30. Make sure you have this unchecked, so it's not going to be visible in the room. And I made the square very small, and basically I took the small square and dragged it down to make a long line. And this works great in Game Maker Studios. It'll allow you, because if you make a small square and you stretch it, that way it conserves space. You're not using too much memory for your game. So that's why I made it small and I stretched it out. That's what's great about Studios. You can do that. In other previous versions of Game Maker, you couldn't do that. But if you do decide to move this line, I think you'll have a problem with it. So if you do decide to move this line, you do have to make it the full length, because you'll have problems in Game Maker where it won't work right. But since it's going to be static, I'm able to stretch it out as far as I need it to be. And I have it long because if I had him jump, I want the same thing to happen. So if he jumps across this line, I still want this thing to be active. So that's why I have it stretched so long. That way, it doesn't matter if he jumps or just walks across it. It's gonna activate this placeholder. Same thing with the red one. Make sure it's not visible. Have the depth at -30. It's gonna be in front of the character, but it's not gonna be visible on the screen. And it's just a small square, and I just dragged it out and stretched it. And basically, I have this way over here. I have this line way over here because I don't. Basically, you have to kind of test this out when you do in your game. When you want to make sure you're off screen when you're off screen, so you don't see the block moving down. And then you put that red line there, or whatever color you want it. So you want to make sure you're off screen before you basically switch the block to the placeholder. That way you don't see it jump. So you just gotta plan ahead, see where you want that line at, so it's off screen, and then once you hit that line, it's going to basically stop that sound from happening, because it's going to go back to the placeholder, and it's only going to work when you get back in contact with the block, which is when you hit that green line, and it's going to make it active again. Because like I said, you don't want the sound to keep happening throughout the game. You only want it to happen at a certain point in the game. Alright, so then come over to the people here. Person right stop. When he collision with the show green block, it's going to switch the placeholder square block to the big block, which is the active block, and I say yes. Then when he comes in contact with the destroy block, it's going to switch the big block that's moving, the gray one, it's going to switch it back to the placeholder, which is that yellow block. And I have both, and then when he collides with the big block, then it's going to make a sound, it's going to destroy other, which is going to be myself, and it's going to do the code, which is going to be the hits equal plus 50. And the big block I have at depth at -20, so it's going to be in front of the character, because the character is only really at -20 there. Alright, so then when the big block I have it set to solid. Make sure it's set to solid, so it's not going to go through objects. When it hits the land, it's going to create a sound effect, which makes like a explosion sound, and then it's going to do a reverse vertical direction. Got that from the move tab, and that's basically going to make it bounce back up where you don't see it in where the sky is at. You want to make sure it bounces back up and then off screen. Alright, and so I have that set up, all the collision for the red and the green for both the move right and the move stop, and then so the move person right stop, I have the green. Then when he hits the destroy, it's going to switch the big block to the placeholder. Then when I go left, I only have it set. Actually, it should be the move left. I'm trying to think. Yeah, move left is only going to be set up for the red. So if you move right or stop right, it switches. One thing I forgot to do here, I think, is when he moves left. Well, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have it active. So basically, I only have it active when he's moving right. So when he's moving right, it does both the green and red. It's going to make the block appear, and it's going to make the block change back to the placeholder for the move right and the person right stop. For the person left stop and the person left move, I don't have anything. There's nothing there for the red or the green block. So only the right move and the right stop needs to have that collision when you hit it, when you hit the lines. And so the placeholder is created. Is at minus 25, so make sure that it's the same. Make sure your block is the same size, so just copy the block, copy this block and paste it into the block placeholder and change the color of it. Make sure your origins are at the same, X and Y are at 0, because that's what the big block's at, is at origin X. X is at 0, Y is at 0. You want to make sure that they're both the same number, because otherwise it will jump. Make sure it's going to be in the same position when it switches. Otherwise, you'll see the object jump. You don't want that. So you want to make sure that both the placeholder and the moving block is set to the same origin. All right, and so basically, I have a move fixed on it, which is going to be direction at 0, set to middle, and then I got that from the move tab, and then I got the jump to start position, which is going to be on the move tab too. So basically, this is going to state that once he hits the red line, it's going to jump back to where it originally was in the game. So that's why I have the jump to start position in there. So the block placeholder is going to jump back to this position when it hits this line. And then I have this yellow, dark yellow, switch back. So this is at direction at 0, middle, and I have it set to solid. So when the block hits that yellow line, it's going to bounce too. So it's going to bounce back down to the ground. And then when it hits the line, it's going to bounce back up. Alright, so that's how you do it. And let me just show you how it looks without these lines being visible. And that can go for, like I said, enemies, bad guys that come towards you or moving blocks like I have in this game. You don't want everything to be moving in the game until you get to a certain point in the game. Alright, so now the line's not there, but once you cross it, it's going to make the block active. And there it goes. Had the sound turned off there, that's why I can't hear it. See, it moves off screen first. You still hear the sound. Alright, now I passed the red line, and now it's not going to be active anymore, see? Until I pass the green line. And now it's back, it's active again. And I think the reason why that it's active when he crosses this line when he's going left, because I know in my move left and my person left stop, I don't have the green or the red collide with it. It's because I have it parented. That's why it's doing that. It's parented to the person right stop. So anything that's happening, that's why when he's moving left and he hits this green line, it makes the block active again because it's parented to the right stop, and the right stop I have it collide with the green and the red, so that's why it's active, that's why it's working. Alright, and that's pretty much it. So that's how you make something active when you move to a certain point in the game, because like I said, you don't want everything to be active when you first start the game. I mean, well, in this particular game anyways, when you're doing the scrolling back and forth. Because like I said, you don't want gunshots to fire and go off when you're at the beginning of the game. It's like, why is that going off? I don't even see the character yet. So you want to get to a certain point and you want to change placeholders to the object, and then that's when they'll fire and make the noise. And then when you get to a certain point, you can change them back to the placeholder, or you can actually destroy them. So you can also, like I said, if you go to the red one, if you want to, instead of switching the big block to the placeholder, you can actually say that I want to destroy the big block instead and delete this. And so it will destroy the big block instead of making it switch back to the placeholder. But then once you hit that green line again, it's not going to come back. So that's the only drawback about that. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and I'll shoot another video sometime in the future. Thank you.